This is Proxy Countdown. Welcome to the big show for the week of April 13th, 2026, alongside my tag team partner, Matt Mascardi. I'm Damian Rawlis. On today's countdown, a 100% increase in black female CEOs at Fortune 500 companies. The wild, wild west of CFO transitions. Snap's AI-branded mismanagement umbrella. Shareholder proposals are becoming old-fashioned again. And on the big vote, Matt finally digs into wayward bandaids. I finally get that dumb joke.
The joke finally makes sense.
Sort of. Let's get to our trade wire. Top stories. The headlines. Dow has appointed Karen Carter as CEO to succeed Jim Fitterling, who will, of course, remain as executive chair. Karen is only the second black woman in the CEO in the Fortune 500. Thasunda Brown Duckett at TIAA is the other one. Karen was most recently COO. I'm just going to read this part because I like company talk like this, where she had strategic oversight of Dow's business operating segments, packaging and specialty plastics, industrial intermediates and infrastructure, and performance materials and coatings, as well as the research and development, environment, health, safety, and sustainability, and commercial organization.
That's all the things.
I love that. Yeah. Now, here's the good thing. Carter, so she's been there for over 30 years. She previously served as Dow's Chief Human Resources Officer and Chief Inclusion Officer.
That's got to be the first. It's got to be the first. Although
congrats,
they still made sure that Daddy stays around, right?
Yeah.
And not to mention that this feels very Ross Brewery with, at Walmart.
Except I don't think Dow was struggling, right? Is there something that they're going through? I don't. It would suggest it's not a glass cliff moment if she's not there to change something.
It's not a glass cliff moment, but over the last 5 years, the stock is down 40%.
Oh, okay.
So it's not exactly like she's inheriting. They're up, in the last year. They're doing great with everybody else, but they were trading in $70 a share as short a while ago as 2021. Now they're trading at under 40.
Well, she's there. We also had 8 CFO transitions. I only looked at 30 filings, so now I'm just focusing on the filings of the biggest companies. I looked at 30 filings since last week. We're doing this weekly. 8 of them were CFO transitions. How's that possible?
Oof.
How about this? At FedEx, they're getting a new CFO. The CFO already left. The company will conduct a comprehensive internal and external search for a permanent successor. I mean, what? Why don't you announce all this after you find your successor? And to prove that point, there's an interim CFO at Corebridge Financial who was getting a $750,000 special retention equity award, and their short-term incentive award for 2026 will increase. It will double from $400,000 to $800,000. So you're spending over $1 million at a minimum because you don't succession plan.
Yeah, I'm just baffled by what is the board's job? What don't they only do?
That
basically
succession planning. It's one of their major tasks.
They do 3 things. They pay the CEO. They hire, fire, pay the CEO. They vote on mergers and acquisitions, and they vote on buybacks and dividends. What else do they do? That's 1/3 of their job is to pick a CEO and pay them. That's it.
Increasingly, they're not doing this, and they also. I'm noticing that if they hire externally, which I think is partly a failure of succession planning, because you're supposed to be bringing in internal talent, right, that can rise up. Because what you really notice about external appointments, and this is not a new thing, is they get a ton of money thrown at them.
Yeah, it costs a lot.
Whereas Karen Carter, there might be another filing to come. There's no golden hello again. I don't see a major increase in her pay. That nothing was announced in the first filing that she's getting a crap ton of money. So that's the smart move is to have talent within.
Honestly, and we did this when we were back at the mothership, that not only is that the smart move to save some money, but having this sounds crass, but the fact that women get paid 80 cents on the dollar is another way that companies save money with the CEO.
That is crass.
Yeah. It not only is it crass, but it's real. It actually happens.
At Meta Platforms, that's the Zuck company, right? It's Facebook, essentially.
I've heard of them.
Instagram. Yeah. Directors Hawk Tan and Tracy Travis are resigning. Hawk, the CEO of Broadcom, lasted for only 2 years, and he's bouncing right after Meta said it agreed to deploy 1 gigawatt of custom artificial intelligence chips using Broadcom technology as part of a multi-gigawatt deal. I hate saying all that. Now, it looks like Hawk kind of played Zuck, right? I mean, was he just there to make this deal? I bet you that was it. Come on.
I mean, he got paid for the position too, so he got paid by Meta and he's to not make a deal with Meta.
He's not there to provide oversight. And as soon as he gets this massive deal, he's just like, "All right, see you, Zuck."
It was fun. Yeah.
Anyway, speaking of Meta, we cover this down to 2 female director thing in our proxy countdown every week. It's happening at Meta. I know it's shocking to you that Meta, of all places, going down to 2 women. But with Tracy Travis resigning, they'll only have 2 female directors left. But don't worry, they still have Dana White, domestic violence guy.
Yeah, I remember him.
We have Tony Hsu, where there are bro culture allegations about the DoorDash work culture. We have Mark Andreessen, who's one of the leading anti-DEI voices in Silicon Valley, who stated that the DEI programs are discriminatory against merit. I love that.
Oh, merit, not
no proof.
Men. I like merit.
No proof.
No numbers, no proof.
No numbers. Peggy Alford, she's one of the 2 remaining women. She also happened to be an executive at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, so she's not,
not exactly independent.
Not providing anything really. And then finally there's Zuck, and we know his problems with women. He's Mr. Masculine Zuck now. So there you go. There's the Meta. So if you need another reason to delete Instagram and Facebook, maybe this is it that could push you over the edge. Maybe. No.
I love your optimism.
All right, let's end on some stupid money headlines. Okay, actually, let's start with something bizarrely normal. But, to your point earlier, and I know you didn't see the copy for the show, this involves a woman. Her name is Paula Arbor. She's stepping down from her role as CIO at Tenet Healthcare. And we're seeing this all the time now. She's going to remain in some kind of nebulous part-time advisory role through 2028. It's always 2028 now.
Wow. It's a long time.
To provide continuing transition services and support. Under the agreement, Ms. Arbor, now again, a woman, will receive a weekly salary of, you ready for this? $820.
Wow, talk about cost savings.
Right? That's like so normal, isn't it? Like, I don't understand. How did this happen?
That's like a Starbucks barista.
Yeah, and I love it. It's like 820. I don't know. I just think it's like, this is one of the best moments of the year. I mean, look, this is a model for everybody. I mean, you've already milked the company for millions. You don't have to step away and milk them more.
But why do we have simultaneously Jim Fitterling, who's going to be executive chair of the board of DOW, which, by the way, makes executive comp, right? Like,
he's an executive chair.
He's an executive. He still gets executive level comp. Ostensibly to help with the transition of CEOs and all that stuff also. Why does Paula Arbor, who was the CIO, only require $820 a week for the same transition advice as Jim Fitterling, who's going to be executive chair of the company and make executive comp to give that advice? What are we doing?
Here's the next example of this, which it's not an egregious example, but in comparison, at AeroVironment, COO Brad Truesdale is also stepping down. He will provide consulting services through his limited liability company. for up to approximately 26 months after the end of his employment at a rate of $200 per hour. So, she's getting $820 a week. I mean, he's getting for half a day.
4 hours. 4 hours he makes as much as that.
And we've seen worse than that, but that just happened in this last week. So there you go. At Alphabet, massive equity awards for all the NEOs. Not the CEO. He already got basically up to $1 billion if certain AI things come in. But the rest of the NEOs are getting $130 million total for all of them. That's the aggregate total. And they're also getting an additional $22 million transition amount following the discontinuation of the Senior Vice President bonus program in 2025. I mean, they make up the stupidest things constantly to throw more money at these people.
That's also
why can't you discontinue a bonus program? Why do you have to pay them to discontinue it?
It's also the $130 million is the summary comp. That's not how much they make.
Right.
That's how much they're reporting now.
Yes. That's the target amount.
So it's already going to be
way more than that.
More than that.
And then finally at Marsh & McLennan, Mark McGivney was appointed COO and CFO. I hate that. How can you be both COO and CFO?
Well, see, Damien, you just changed the middle O to an F, and that's all it took.
So it should be COFO. He gets $10 million Golden Hello Equity Award. So that's all the top stories. Moving on to our proxy cage match. Match is Snap plans to lay off 16% of its employees. That's around 1,000 people, citing, quote, rapid advancements in artificial intelligence, end quote.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Which is really another way of saying, we mismanage our hiring. We're not good at hiring. We're not good at our jobs. And by we, I really just mean CEO Evan Spiegel. I mean, he has forget the name of his business partner who controls roughly the same amount of voting power. But really, this is Evan Spiegel. I mean, because there is no avenue to provide any kind of oversight or investor input at this company, really, other than Evan, right?
Well, Snap was one of the most egregious cases, right? Didn't he own
non-voting shares?
He handed out as the shares to investors, non-voting shares.
Yeah, it was the first. I think it was the first. Yeah,
but he owns the value of stock that he owns 27 million shares. The price of the 27 million shares. The price of the stock went up 19% on the announcement, which means the money they save from axing those employees, those real human beings who relied on the employment at the company, effectively he pockets as equity gains multiples over.
I mean, he said in a memo to his own staff that the layoffs would move Snap towards profitability. So yeah, I mean, there you go.
So he made the company profitable, and pocketed the return on it.
So this was the reason why it's in the proxy cage matches is that this was following demands last month from Irenic Capital Management, an activist investor who was pushing Evan Spiegel essentially to get rid of people, to fire people. So once again, an activist investor is really the only way to provide any kind of oversight. I mean, I'm not saying I necessarily agree with the oversight here, but it seems to be the only way to get anything going.
Here's the fun tidbit here, right? Given the fact that Spiegel owns all the voting shares and 95% of the voting power he owns individually.
I thought the co-founder. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Spotify, maybe. I thought. Yeah.
They may have a co-founder, but the fact is, management owns this company. There is no public company. This is a private company, which means any activist coming in and saying you should do anything, no one's going to listen to the activists. Unless the activist made the case, if you fire some large portion of your staff, the stock is going to shoot up. You will hit profitability and you pocket it, right? That is the only argument that would be viable.
And you have cloud cover because this is the time to fire people through AI, right? You just blame AI.
So
you don't blame how much you suck at getting your company to profitability. You don't blame yourself for overhiring or mishiring. You just blame like something else, right?
Some vague, ethereal
idea of
AI-ishness. Yeah. And frankly, if you're an activist right now, isn't that you buy the stock, you go convince the CEO, you're going to pocket the gains on saying AI forced my hand to lay off these people. You get the stock bump.
Forced my hand. Yeah.
I mean, like, everybody wins in that scenario. The CEO pockets the equity gains, and so does the activist. And the activist never actually has to take an activist stake at all, except in as much as they convince them to make the layoffs. So if you're an ex-employee of SNAF, feel free to write a thank you note to, Irenic Capital Management, who likely was involved in convincing Evan Spiegel to cut your job.
I have two better ideas. Use AI, input all the functions of all those workers that you're not going to fire, and say, how can we use this talent to make this a better company? Or the second idea is a lot simpler: fire Evan Spiegel. Why don't we get a new CEO to make this company run better?
I mean, the fact that
Snap could work.
IPO'd, what, 12 years ago?
It's been a while, yeah.
9 years ago?
And still struggling.
And is still not profitable.
No.
Maybe Evan Spiegel shouldn't be running it.
Maybe. And again, if you need another reason to delete social media, how about Snap? Maybe you don't want your social media company controlled by one dude, right?
Yeah, correct.
Maybe that's dangerous. All right.
Maybe that does not work.
CarMax will add 2 members to the board following discussions with activist investor Star Board Value. The new board members will be Jim Kessler and William Cobb. I don't know. I don't have much to say about this. They seem fine, but we're seeing I got to get the data to support this. I feel like the new trend is that the new directors put on boards by activist investors, they really just seem to be men these days. And also, once again, activist investor, they're the ones who can change board culture. They just have to kind of scare them a little bit, and they get directors added. So there you go. And then you have anything to say about that? You look no. Finally, ISS announced that it has filed a federal lawsuit aimed at challenging a new Indiana law that has been replicated in several states. You actually mentioned this law. We called it the Pledge Allegiance to the Anti-Woke. That's what it was. It required ISS and other proxy advisors to provide what was called a regime of state law mandated warnings when recommending voting against company management. It's the stupidest thing ever. So I applaud ISS for fighting this. I mean, I got ambivalent feelings at best towards certain parts of modern day capitalism, but forcing ISS to do this is just it's theater. It's stupid. It's completely anti-capitalist. It's nonsense.
I mean,
let us come up with if you're upset at ISS, come up with a better system. I mean, put up a competitor. No one's forced to use ISS, and ISS gives you recommendations. I mean,
fundamentally,
I'm supporting ISS. Yes.
Well, I support it too. I'm curious why we waited until 2026 when half these laws were passed in 2022 and 23 to start fighting some.
Because I think there's a little bit of erosion of the myth of Trump. I think that his power seems to be waning a bit.
Which means that we're not actually fighting the good fight because it's correct. We're fighting the fight because we think we can win it now.
Yeah, we're not as afraid. Yeah, that's it. You're right. Yeah.
Which is not really a noble exercise, right? So they're not fighting for free speech and governance rights.
Yeah.
But second, Indiana, you know that I can go on Reddit and say you should buy the stock with no evidence. What is the difference, right? Like
Section 420, is that the difference?
To me, this is bananas. Just because an investor paid for the advice and you don't like the advice, you're making the advice giver tell you all of the reasons why they might have given that advice. Where I can get free advice everywhere that's worthless, act on it, and there's no regulation about that in Indiana, right? Like, what are we doing here? The whole thing is kabuki theater.
Well, they're still trying to, win over voters by coming up with fake fights. I mean, which is what we're seeing in the shareholder proposal world. Speaking of which,
it does turn out that the public does not care about a fake fight with ISS, the proxy advisor.
Let's move on to, speaking of shareholder proposal, let's move on to our vote results table. Only 7 meetings this last week, thank God. This is the calm before the storm, right? My job's about to get a lot crazier. Only 2 shareholder proposals. They were both at Lennar. We had one from John Chevedden. 37% support, equal voting rights for each share. That's a win. Stop it, people. Let's let that one pass. And then another one, disclosure of voting results by share class, kind of in the same vein. That's from the treasurer of the state of Illinois. So 2 kind of old-fashioned governance things there. What I love about this, and let me stay with Lennar for a bit. What I love about Lennar is that they used a paper written by one of their directors to tell you why you should vote against that shareholder proposal, and that's Jeffrey Sonnenfeld.
Jeffrey Sonnenfeld got the lowest vote.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Yeah,
he had the lowest votes for any director last week. Yes, about 20% no.
But I'm curious. I want to hear an investor argue for unequal voting rights.
Oh, please. Yeah.
I want to see. Give me the argument.
The argument is. I'll tell you what they used from Sonnenfeld's paper. He used a very straight the stock overperformance. That's it. The stock is better. But saying nothing about any of the other parts of the company, a long-term view, just this very short-term view of stock price going up if you have dual class shares.
I haven't read the paper. My guess is it does not control for the fact that most of the dual class shares in the last 15 years are just tech companies, and the stock overperformance is Zuckerberg and Alphabet and like the
Nvidia,
massive companies with
Nvidia's
growth. But I cannot for the life of me figure out exactly what an investor would argue for dual class shares when management is voted in every single year at a 96% average rate anyway.
Well, they're afraid of their founders. I mean, they don't want to go against the founders, I guess.
But who are you going against? No one goes against them even when
that's true.
Elon Musk has gotten every pay package he asked for. He wins every single vote. It doesn't matter. So what exactly?
They don't want to be told what to do. They don't like shrill ESG activists.
Make a case that is
There's no case.
Not a real world case. Don't tell me, TSR is higher at dual class companies. Make a real world case, because the TSR would be exactly the same if it wasn't dual class. You are implying that dual class is causal for stock increases. It is 100% not causal. Whatever argument you're making, it is not causal that the dual class shares increase TSR, which means the only thing that the dual class shares does is insulate the management and the founders from repercussions when they don't overperform. You've done is remove a right, not actually provide a return.
Let's stay on this topic because there's really nothing more to report from the voting. Everything was, to your point, everything was very management friendly. The only blip was that at Biglari Holdings, which is a company run by Sardar Biglari, who's one of the guys most angry at Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, the Cracker Barrel guy.
Yeah, he is a big anti-woke dude. Despite the fact that he controls 73% of the vote, if you eliminate that, basically the whole board got 50% no, including him. So that, to your point, there is no justification for dual class shares.
There's none. There's no justification.
All right, let's talk some more good news here. I'm going to talk about some upcoming meetings next week, and then I'll briefly introduce Johnson & Johnson, and Matt will take over. There are 16 meetings coming up next week. 2 of them are special meetings, including KKR, which is having a special meeting to resolve some things in its bylaw because it's part of the sunsetting of their dual class shares. So even KKR, which is no small company, right? I mean, this is a global investment firm, whatever they do, KKR. they are getting rid of their dual class shares. It was baked into which is what all we've been calling for. Is just if you're too chicken at first and you need to dominate everything out of the gate after your IPO, fine, but you have to do sunset provisions. We got to get rid. Otherwise, you got snap. You just have a struggling mess, and it's good for nobody. So
I mean, but let's be a little bit honest.
Okay.
KKR's founders, Kravis, Roberts, and
it's still a model. I know what you're going to say. It's still a model.
No, I'm saying that they're 82 years old, and sunsetting the dual class shares.
We have to wait for Evan Spiegel to be
do we have to wait? Do we have to wait for Zuckerberg to die?
I'm just saying there's a mechanism in place to do it. Let's just do it. All right. Now here's the interesting part of the upcoming meetings, which is kind of a new wrinkle in the early proxy season. So there are 14 companies with normal annual meetings. 7 of them have shareholder proposals. So there, I was thinking maybe there'd be a lot of zeros, but actually half of them have proposals. They're not excluding everything. And here's the vast majority of these proposals. 7 out of 9 are old-fashioned governance proposals, the G. Yeah. So they're letting the John Chevedens of the world onto the ballots. They're excluding a lot of the woke and anti-woke theater, which is, I didn't see this coming. There's only one. I'm calling it H. So it's now ESG and H. H is that's what I'm calling the anti-woke proposals. I'm calling them the hate proposals. They hate everything. And that's their excuse for whatever they want is that everything sucks. They hate everything. And so vote for this. And they usually get under 1%. But there's only letting one on, and that's at Levi Strauss. And the other one I thought was interesting, too. There's one S proposal, one social proposal. This is from HCA Healthcare. The proponent wants a report basically giving data on the impacts of all the hospital acquisitions that have been going on at HCA Healthcare. But this was the reason why I'm including this is that I haven't seen this type of proponent before, and I just think it's great and interesting. It's from Julie Mayfield, a state senator from North Carolina. How come we don't have more of these?
Have you
seen these? Okay.
The version of this that I saw was at Disney, and it was excluded, and it was someone who was actually running for office.
Oh, okay. That's
I don't know that Julie's
been around
an incumbent.
For a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen an incumbent, but actually, given the fact that a lot of this is political theater to begin with, it's such a short line between an actual politician and a shareholder proposal.
Well, this one is clearly not political theater. This report is asking for things like, the number of physician departures post-acquisition, a comparison of pre- and post-acquisition patient satisfaction rate. I mean, this is just data. She's asking for data to support the effects of acquisition. This is not theater on any level. I mean,
well, here's what I'm excited for. First of all, it's a possible floodgate, but I like this floodgate. If any other state senators or state reps or senators or reps pay attention to this, what they can effectively say is who's the largest employer in my state, number one? What policy initiatives are we trying to pass that they are fighting, number two? And I know I own them in my pension, period, number three.
Yeah.
That means you're in a position where you can easily file a proposal yourself. And if the large employer in your state excludes your proposal, there's a tremendous amount of political risk to that, right? Like, imagine telling the state senator who's on the oversight committee for you that they're going to exclude your proposal to get more data because you've ignored them through legislative processes, and now you've just taken it to the investors to demand the data. Now, these will likely lose, but it is a very easy way to out any company who's obfuscating data that you're asking for through the legislative process. I mean, you could see how this immediately becomes this a political cudgel. And I can't say that I mind it.
I like it.
I want data on the number of physician departures post acquisitions.
Yeah,
I want that.
Finally, let's move on to the big vote for the week. That's Johnson & Johnson. Few observations. I don't have a ton on this one, so I'm kind of curious where you're going to go with Johnson & Johnson. First of all, here's a trend I hate. I understood it during COVID. Virtual meetings. Now they're all virtual. They're terrible. All of them. Look, I don't love getting together with a bunch of people in a room with a smelly carpet. I get it, but these are your shareholders, and this is a terrible way to control your shareholders. In fact, we've watched a few together online, and they have the proponents read things on tape and the video. So it's just you can't sway people with a video. The whole thing it's done. It was to begin with. The meetings are farcical, but the virtual things should go away. There's no excuse for virtual meetings. None. Unless a pandemic is fine. I'm okay with the pandemic.
Some of the proponents, like Jim McRitchie, have timed when they say the vote is open to when they say it's closed in the virtual meetings, and it's like seconds.
Yeah.
Like the vote is now closed.
It's a way of controlling shareholder voice. It's another way. All right.
Yeah.
My other observations, the skills of the Johnson & Johnson board were concerning to me.
Let's come back to them.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about them.
And then finally, I said I didn't have a lot, but I had some things to say about the skill sets. The other thing is that the board power is concerning to me. The lead director and the CEO, that's CEO Joaquin Duato and lead independent director Marilyn Hewson, control 42% of board influence. That's concerning to me. It's too much power in the hands of these two. That's it. That's all I got. Take Johnson & Johnson. What do you have?
All right. Well, first of all, I need to tell you that Johnson & Johnson spun off Kenvue in 2023.
Oh, Kenvue was Johnson & Johnson, right? Yeah.
And Kenvue makes Band-Aids. So we're no wayward Band-Aids.
Can I just say, I know we're not talking about Kenvue. What a terrible name for a company.
I know.
I mean, Band-Aids are one of the best products ever. You can't like call your company something to do with Band-Aids so people know what it is.
Well, they also make Neutrogena and Tylenol. Those are their big brands.
But who hates Band-Aids? Everyone loves Band-Aids.
But this is actually important. The spinoff is important.
Okay.
All right, so start with the stock. The stock is up 50% in the last year, 44% in the last 5, right? They just announced actually a couple days ago the 64th straight year of dividend increases.
Okay.
64 years of dividend increases because it's one of those old, blue bloody American companies where dividends used to matter a lot and people love dividends and they keep increasing them. But 2024, the PE ratio at this company was hovering around 10, and now it's back to around 20, which is its normal average. A lot of that has to do with the fact that they spun off Kenvue, and what they did instead, Kenvue was stable income. You're always going to sell Band-Aids, you're always going to sell Tylenol. Instead, what they pivoted to was bigger bets on long-term drugs. Their drug pipeline. Okay. So
although I should add that you say they're always going to sell Band-Aids and Tylenol. Wasn't the Trump administration trying to convince people earlier? No one bought it. That Tylenol was causing spectrum disorder. Yeah.
No, my wife is a doc, and she had a very let's just say that she had patients who were entrenched in certain ideologies and said they were refusing Tylenol because they heard it caused autism.
Well, the great thing about that too is you're not only blaming Tylenol, you're blaming women, right? Because they chose to voluntarily take Tylenol during their pregnancy. Anyway, it's
literally the worst.
That's a tangent. Keep going.
But basically right now, you've removed the stable income of Kenvue and you've replaced it with the big bets, and you're getting paid now in the PE ratio. You notice the PE ratio spikes back up, and that suggests that investors are paying for future revenue, not current revenue, because revenue has had some steady growth, but it's not big revenue growth. It's pretty steady. And now investors are just pumping up the stock price because they're betting on the future pipeline of drugs. All right. So two things have happened.
Okay.
You've increased the dividend for the 64th straight year, and you sold off the company that gives you stable income year in and year out, right? That you sold off your consumer division, which means dividends are likely to eat your ability to make the big bets, as in you're paying out money to investors. And that's money you could be using on big bets, right? Like, so you notice that growth companies don't pay dividends. Like tech companies, almost none of them pay dividends until, they pay a little bit just to pay their founders for their massive dual class shares like Meta did.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because of all companies, the tech companies should be paying dividend to non-management figures, right? Because that should be a thank you because you have no voice here. So thanks for staying with the ride, right? But anyway,
that doesn't happen.
Keep going.
So if you're paying out those dividends, there's some chance you're shortchanging the big bets, or the big bets will eat the dividends. As in, you just announced a dividend increase. The market likes your dividends. You're touting 64 years of straight dividend increases, but you have to pay for these big bets. So is that dividend is it sustainable anymore? Are you just going to have to take that away? Are you going to have to eat it? Because if you don't, how are you funding some of these big bets? Now, right now, they're in a sweet spot where they can kind of do both. But what you need is a big bet board. You need a board who's designed and used to taking big swings on long-term bets.
Okay.
And, more like a biotech company. With an existing drug pipeline than like a consumer brands company.
My governance spidey sense tells me, having spent some time with this board over the last few days, is that it ain't the board for big swings.
There it is. I mean, so the question is this a big bet board or a big friendly board, right?
Yeah.
And now I'm going to put myself on. I'm going to use the same thing that I did last week, where I'm going to give myself a 30-minute shot clock. I am going to look through the data that I can find on this company inside 30 minutes, and then come up with a verdict.
Okay.
So we've got a new big bet company. The first starting point for me was they should probably have some medicine and drug experts on the board.
Yeah.
The first thing I noticed was, why are 80% of the MD PhDs, the people who might have the drug expertise, the medicine expertise, they're women, but only 41% of the board are women?
You know why? I mean, right?
The men come from Best Buy, Sherwin-Williams, J.P. Morgan, Ernst & Young, a Duke professor of medicine, and Advocate Health, which is a health policy group.
Okay.
The women are a professor in biology, a professor in biochemistry and biophysics, Lockheed Martin, the president of Wellesley, academic.
These are credentials.
And the Army, the surgeon in the Army. So you have literally military plus I did the surgery.
Look, as we know, we've been following this forever. Women have to work twice as hard to get in a position to earn twice as less, right? Essentially, but that's just the way it seems to go.
Unless that woman knows everybody to begin with, because the only woman on this board without a PhD or an MD was Marilyn Houston, the lead independent director, who was the CEO of Lockheed Martin, which is totally incongruous with what Johnson & Johnson does. They manufactured weapons and planes.
I was gonna say, dropping bombs is not the same as applying bandaids.
Apparently not. I don't think so.
Although it does keep the bandaid business thriving. Yeah, go ahead.
Does any board that you could think of encapsulate the gap between male standards and female standards better than this board?
Right.
Like, the men are basically Best Buy and Sherwin-Williams, paint. So all of the retail consumer facing experience is not necessary on this board anymore, and it's all men. So there is a case that could be made to just vote the men off this board because they literally have no experience relevant to the future of Johnson & Johnson. But that's not what's going to happen here. Here's a game I want to play with you. And I pulled this in my 30-minute shot
I like
clock.
games.
The skills matrix. Johnson & Johnson showed the skill of science and technology.
Yep, this is right. This is the same stuff I highlighted. Go ahead.
So this is perfect. Then you'll probably know the answer. There were 5 people who had science and technology as a little check mark on their skills matrix.
Yeah, which is disturbing because a lot of the other categories, international business strategy, financial, executive leadership, blah 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 blah, all way higher than 5. 5 out of 12.
Almost all the directors had those things.
Yeah.
Those things are the most fungible assets at this company level. Like this company can hire anybody for its board for the most part.
Yeah.
And so getting somebody who had like a econ from Wharton, there's a billion of those. You can find those easily. Science and technology is what you need. There's 5 little check marks. Can you guess the person who doesn't have one of those little check marks?
Guess the person? It's either I think where you're leading me is it's either the 2 main power brokers, either the lead director or the CEO.
The CEO does not have science or technology on the company's own skills matrix as a skill.
Oh, that's self-reported.
That's self-reported. That's not the free float data. The self-reported data does not have the CEO with a science or technology background.
So he's a career Johnson & Johnson guy, but but to your point, looks like he graduated from business school, despite the fact that I love this part of his wrinkle in his background. He's a business guy, but his mother was a nurse, his grandfather was a pediatrician, and his grandmother was a pharmacist, but he went to business school. They should have hired those 3.
Yeah. They were unavailable.
Yeah. I was going to say about Joaquin Duato, too, he's Spanish, is that the other thing that's disappointing is that his other board service is not even at a place that he could gain something relevant. It's at Hess. It's an oil company. An oil company. Go somewhere you can gain something relevant about it.
Except that he did gain something relevant because he was on Hess's board where he's connected to other oil executives who are connected to Marilyn Houston, the lead independent director.
Yeah,
so the thing you get is not the thing you need for this company. It's the thing you need for your career and perpetual money machine.
Which is a tight relationship with Marilyn so that you are sure that she's not going to challenge you and that you have complete control of the boardroom, essentially.
Well, I'm going to stay on qualification, then I'm going to come back to Maryland in a second, because here is the board skill requirement position from the actual proxy. This is what they said. One of the things they said, and they only have like 4 or 5 bullets for what are the base requirements for a director on this board. They don't list exhaustive list. They basically list 4 or 5 things. Quote, have expertise and experience relevant to our business and the ability to offer advice and guidance to the CEO based on that expertise and experience. Mm-hmm. So somebody explain to me how John Morikis, who spent 40 years at Sherwin-Williams, who has no other experience, 2 things are true of John Morikis. Number 1, his core value add is not going to be necessarily relevant to Johnson & Johnson in any way. Being a paint executive has nothing to do with like taking big swings on drugs at Johnson & Johnson.
Not to mention his other board service. He's a busy beaver. He's at a cereals company, he's at a mail company, and he's at a dishwasher company.
Correct. Whirlpool, UPS, and General Mills. Yeah. Second, on the skills matrix, self-reported, they gave John Morikis healthcare industry experience.
No, is that from the paint? Oh, because I know why. Because when you sniff a lot of paint, you get you get a little woozy, right? And
here's the reason why.
And then you need to see a doctor, and then you learn something from the doctor. I remember Curious George smelling like ether or something, and the doctor came and
10 minutes of my 30 minutes on John Morikis.
Okay.
He is the chairman of the board of directors for the University Hospitals Health System. And that is UH is a Ohio-based hospital system. Uh-huh. I was like, why is Morikis on this board?
Yeah, why?
Morikis is on this board because he's from Ohio.
Oh,
He's from Cleveland, where this is based, and the qualifications to join the board is to be rich and from Ohio. Because what half the board actually does is raise money for the hospital system. That's what hospital boards do. He has literally no skills related to healthcare. I'm not sure he would know where the appendix was if you asked him. He's just from Ohio and was a CEO and wealthy and lives in Ohio. That's it.
Yeah, I wish we could clone ourselves and create a new part of our company just focusing on these auxiliary boards, these nonprofit boards, because there's so much that we could cover there. In fact, the Johnson & Johnson board, Hubert Jolly also triggered me personally because he was at Best Buy, right? He's on boards like Ralph Lauren. He's a trustee at the New York Public Library. It's like, come on,
of course,
really?
Of course,
the guy from Best Buy, the store that is like its main goal is to stop you from reading books. I mean, that's what is Best Buy there for? Like, really? I just watch some more Netflix, dude.
No, they also sell Whirlpool
products. That's true.
So you can wash your dishes
while reading
and
a
stuff.
book. Yeah.
But so why, the question has to be asked, why is someone like Mauricus actually on this board? So Mauricus is on the UH board with Chris Gorman from KeyCorp, who's on the Business Roundtable with Marilyn Hewson. And Mauricus is board member when he was on Sherwin-Williams. One of his board members was Jeff Fettig, who's on the board of DuPont with Marilyn Hewson.
Yeah.
So here's what you see happening on a board like this. And this is why it's important to talk about big bet boards versus professionalized boards. Professionalized boards, the members exist to perpetuate the membership, right? They swap members. They sit on other boards with each other. They're on nonprofits with each other. They know each other from circles like that. And they are not to challenge management necessarily. They only challenge management when management fails and their jobs are at risk. That's the only time they'll replace a CEO. Otherwise, their job is to make sure that they all stick on boards together. That's a professionalized board. That's what Johnson & Johnson has. They do not have a big swing board.
You know, just one more thing about Mauricus, and part of this does this is triggering to me because it does suggest a little bit too that being a director is sort of a nonsense, pointless thing, even though we know it's not. You don't need any proof of being a good director to be a director. Since 2024, 2 years ago, Mauricus has been added to 4 big company boards. I mean, really big, important companies. Johnson & Johnson, General Mills, UPS, Whirlpool. There's no proof that he's even a good director. And now he's overtaxed at 4 different companies. I mean, it's like, what a joke. I don't understand. How do you... what is this? I don't understand that at all, really.
I mean, that's just the question of who you know, right? Like,
that's not... How does that help shareholders? How does that help stakeholders?
Well, it doesn't. Well, how does this help? All right. Yeah. So we've mentioned Marilyn Hewson a few times, right? Let's come back to Marilyn Hewson.
I've never seen that before, by the way. 4 big boards in like a year. Have you seen that before?
That's when he retired. He retired.
I know, but and then he just picked up the phone and they're all like, "Yeah,
and
dude."
They're all like, "Yeah, man,
fun guy.
Cool. Join us." Yeah. Marilyn Hewson, who is the lead independent director. Johnson & Johnson has a mandatory retirement age of 72.
She's 72.
You want it?
But they can override it, I saw in the proxy.
Not only did they override it, so this is her opening letter in this proxy. Quote, fostering innovation and continuing this level of performance requires the right mix of expertise and leadership on our board. To that end, we are pleased to have elected 2 exceptional new directors in 2025, Daniel Pinto and John Mauricus. So Mauricus just joined, even though there's no relevant experience. They've already spun off Kenvue. What on earth do they need somebody who's got retail experience for and no healthcare experience is beyond me. But then she says, quote, I was personally inspired by the independent director's decision to extend my eligibility to serve on the board for 2 years beyond the company's retirement age. I will continue to prioritize engagement with our shareholders and solicit feedback as we strive to maintain the highest standards of governance from the company. So she hit the mandatory retirement age this year. She should be off the board this year. They didn't say, great, we want you to stick around for another year. They actually presupposed that investors will care so little that they actually extended her eligibility for 2 years. That assumes that A, she wins this year, and B, no one cares next year.
What kind of a lead director anyway is it that doesn't even follow their own rules? And can I just say that to your point about Mauricus, they both have the same first skills and qualification listed, which is basically nonsense. Expertise in executive and operational leadership in a global industry, right? So you don't even need both of them.
I have that.
Right?
Right.
But you don't need. But you
don't need both of them. That's right.
I don't love Mauricus, but he could be the new lead independent director if you're going to appoint him. I don't know.
Why not? I just like that she followed up the fact that the board ignored, and she leading the board ignored the board's rule for when you should retire, and then said in the next sentence, we strive to maintain the highest standards of governance for the company. Next sentence.
How do they? I can't believe that people are such sticklers to the attendance thing, but yet this one passes. Like,
speaking of attendance, right? You mentioned the overboarding problem here. Like the overboarding problem, CEO Joaquin Duato has 5 board roles currently when you count his nonprofit boards. This is the Bryant Hemphill Award for overboarding. ISS and Glass Lewis suggested voting against Brian Hemphill, a director on John Wiley & Sons, because he was overboarded. He hit the 5 board threshold that basically triggers an auto vote against.
But it wasn't 5 public boards.
It was not 5 public boards.
Yeah.
In fact, 3 of the 5 boards were like the Johnsonville local chamber of commerce. It was like a board with 7 people who all like go get coffee at the local Starbucks. It was not like a board. It was like a baby board.
Are you talking about Mark McClellan?
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mark McClellan on this board, the longest tenured director, Duke Center of Health director, professor for the alignment.
That's a lot right there. That's a busy man.
I'm pretty sure that takes all your time. Yeah. He's a professor at Duke. He's an acting professor. He Alignment Healthcare Board, Cigna Board, both public companies, Director of Research America, Chair of the National Academy of Medicine, Director of the National Alliance for Hispanic Health, Director at Prognom IQ, Director. I'm not done. Director of the United States of Care. Co-chair Guiding Committee Healthcare Payment Learning Action.
That's incredible.
Where's his auto vote against for investors? Why isn't he Brian Hemphill?
He doesn't have black skin, I guess. Maybe they'll vote against him this year. Maybe they'll, right? They have to.
CEO Duato is on Johnson & Johnson's board, also the Business Council, Business Roundtable, New Jersey CEO Council, and the Spain U.S. Chamber of Commerce. That's 5 roles. Mark Weinberger, JM MetLife Saudi Aramco. Those are 3 boards right there that are public. Senior advisor to Tanium, senior advisor to Stone Canyon Industries, senior advisor to Teneo, director of the MBER, director of Just Cap. What are we doing?
Well, look, the Hemphill thing is a direct parallel to McClellan because they're both academics too. Hemphill was the president of Old Dominion. I'm trying to remember where, but McClellan's it's the same situation. They have to vote against McClellan. They have to.
I mean, if there's not an auto triggered vote against,
then they're not using.
McClellan. First of all,
if it's not an auto trigger against McClellan, he's not voted out. It means they're not. These companies' advisors, they're not using data.
They're not actually making any sort of data-driven decision. Because McClellan's been there for 13 years. He didn't just join these boards last year.
True. It's like enough already anyway, right?
I mean, we've already established that like he's overboarded. So 30 minutes was up.
Okay. That's a lot.
That's what I did in 30 minutes. So it's not actually that bad. Yeah. Here's the game time decisions.
Go ahead.
Verdict number 1, this is not a big bet board.
No.
Sure, it's low tenure. Sure, there's some power dispersion amongst non-Marilyn Hewson and CEO Duato.
We got to get rid of Hewson. But you know that Hewson is the chair of the nominating committee, which conducts an annual review of the board leadership structure to ensure effective board leadership.
I wonder who made the decision to extend her on this board. Herself doing that?
Well, she has a nice mirror in the boardroom. Yeah. All right, what else?
But there's no one on this board with core skill that has power. There's no one to take a big bet with power on this board. That doesn't exist. This board is about this board. It is not about future-proofing the company. These are fiscal managers. They aren't big bet managers. Verdict number 2. I didn't even mention this, but this is a traditional overpayer. In fact, the advanced metrics on this board show this is an atypical overpay board. This is a board that is paying their CEO for future performance, not current performance. They didn't give this CEO a package that says, oh, we really appreciate the growth you've given us. They gave him a package that says, maybe you'll grow someday, right? Like you'll earn this pay.
I wrote that down too. Every year in the last 3 years, his total direct compensation just magically grows $3 million. His total summary jumped $9 million from last year. Yeah, it's just like a magic growth pills.
It helps when the metrics used to actually pay your CEO include TSR, which got pumped up not because he did something new, but because he spun off Kenvue,
right,
and said he was going to make big bets, and has been spending his time fighting lawsuits for vaginal mesh and baby powder lawsuits.
Right.
Massive lawsuits.
Yeah.
Actually, lawsuits big enough to take down huge portions of this company. They just settled one of the lawsuits for a single woman for the vaginal mesh issues, $57 million for one woman because it's so bad. So paying jury verdicts that you lose and selling your stable assets does not seem like something worthy of overpaying your CEO for.
Yeah, 360 to 1 CEO pay ratio there too.
And verdict number 3, this is a board that is clearly too busy to pay attention anyway. I don't know what you expect this board to do.
But that's part of the point, I think.
So here are my vote recommendations. Easy. Vote no against Marilyn Houston.
Well, that one's not even. We don't have to think about that because she's reached the retirement age. So move on. Next. Next.
They said move on.
Yeah,
move on.
Yeah.
Yes. Number 2. Vote no on John Morikis.
Yeah,
I know he's just
too
joined.
busy. Yeah, he's too busy anyway.
Not only is he too busy, but he has no useful skill for a big bet board on drugs. Right.
Paint. The paint. I don't know. I feel like this paint and drugs are the same thing, sort of.
Yeah, I guess so.
A lot of people like at RISD. A lot of those guys. There's kids are doing drugs.
A lot of paint. And they do drugs.
They do a lot of drugs. Yeah.
And then vote no on Woods and Pinto.
Okay.
I know Pinto just joined the board, and so did Morikis. Guess what? They both got added to the pay committee, a pay committee that Marilyn Houston is also on.
Jeez.
And they overpaid Duato.
How about
so
Houston?
If you're going to vote against pay, which is my next vote, no on pay, you have to vote against the members of the pay committee who set the pay.
Houston's on 4 different committees. 4.
Yeah. And then finally, vote yes on the one shareholder proposal at Johnson & Johnson.
Yeah.
An independent board chair.
Wow, come on. I mean, that should be at every company.
You're getting rid of Houston. You can separate board chair from Duato. He doesn't need it. There are principally 0 reasons for a CEO. He's been at this company for 30 years. He's used to having bosses at this company. He did it for 30 years.
And give him
another boss.
The worst possible outcome here is just injecting new insight.
And frankly, Duato's been at a company that was a stable growth company making baby powder and soap that doesn't hurt your eyes for the most part.
Yeah.
The divisions he actually worked in were consumer health. Why on earth don't you want a board chair that has future experience relevant to where you're going? Making bets
Science
on
and
oncology
technology.
drugs and pipeline drugs. And go do that. Those are my votes. That's it.
That's a good one. I didn't think you'd get anything out of Johnson & Johnson, but you nailed it. That's the Proxy Countdown for the week of April 13th, 2026. Join us next week when we jump back into the alternative democracy pool. Forever on the lookout for shareholder shenanigans, dopey directors, scandalous CEO pay ratios, and wayward Kenvue bandaids.
Yeah, very specific.
I'm so excited because I did not know what Kenvue did. Kenvue bandaids. I love it.